Joined now by Bob Costas and Mike Tirico. First and foremost, some great news, some big news with you guys. We'll start with you, Bob. The idea of passing on the torch to a fellow Syracuse guy, and then Mike, your excitement to carry on such a prestigious torch here with the Olympics.
Yeah, figuratively, I'll pass the torch to Mike. It's a Syracuse fest, Nico. I've done the Olympics beginning as the late night host in 1988 and then the primetime host in 92, so that's a dozen Olympics. And NBC was nice enough to say to me years ago, it's up to you whenever you feel like stepping aside. And I still have plenty of energy for it, but it just felt like this was the right time. And the decision was made easier after Mike came over from ESPN to NBC, because I knew that they had the right successor in place. So it's all his. And he can get all the credit and all the blame starting a year from now.
Send all blame to me. And Nico, when I was in school there, Bob was kind enough to give back at a Bob Costas scholarship. And after I was the lucky first recipient of it, Bob wanted to come up and meet that person to make sure he wasn't a knucklehead. Direct quote. And that's the first time I had the chance to meet Bob. And 30 years later, he's one of the great people who's been in my life, and it's such an honor to follow him. These are shoes you don't fill. Hopefully you can follow and do the best we can with the template that's been laid out for us by the absolute best of all time doing this.
That's so awesome. Congratulations again. And at this point, when you're a year out from the games, what's the preparation standpoint? Like, what storylines do you follow at this point? I know we're kind of waiting on NHL players going over there. You know, there's the nice return of Lindsey Vonn, hopefully. So what do you kind of follow at this point a year out?
Well, Bob has already, he helped me and Al Michaels as well as I got ready for the Rio Games, that you don't need to know everything, especially right now, in that role as the host. So I've watched the big storylines. You mentioned Lindsey Vonn, Nathan Chen. We have an outstanding figure skater who was terrific at the Nationals that were on the station here just a few weeks ago. He has a real great chance to be a gold medal contender. So some of those storylines you start to follow. Shaun White comes back to the Winter Olympics, and with the extreme sports, the X Games type sports, gaining more popularity, I think that the younger viewers will be very invested in the Olympic experience because of that, and that will bring a young woman named Chloe Kim, who's only 16 years old, to the forefront over the couple of weeks that we are over in South Korea.
And you know, Nico, the point you make is an interesting one, because when it comes to the team sports that we follow on a regular basis in the United States, each Olympics is different. The NHL has to decide what the plus minus of Korea is. There was not much to decide in Sochi. There wasn't much to decide in Salt Lake City or Vancouver. An obvious plus. The players want to play for their country, but does the league want to interrupt its season for 3 weeks? Do they get enough of a bounce from it? On the other hand, you move ahead 2 years to Tokyo. Baseball, which has been off the Olympic program for a long time, is obviously going to come back because Japan is a baseball-mad country. So it's kind of a case-by-case basis with some sports. Some sports will always, winter and summer, be Olympic staples. Others, you kind of go with the flow.
Absolutely. And with our last question here, when I've got two Syracuse guys, I have to ask you, I know you're both very busy men, but the current state with 5 straight wins for Orange basketball, and in your opinion, for both of you, does Jim Boeheim have 1,000 wins?
1,001.
1,001, yes,
after
thank you.
After the Clemson game, after the battle corner 3 to win 5 in a row, and Leiden did a great job of making the pass. So can you tell I'm still hanging on every play.
Not paying any attention at all.
Now that I don't have to cover college basketball on a regular basis, I've taken up yelling at ACC officials at my TV and being frustrated like a fan. I love Syracuse basketball. It's been a part of my life since I arrived on campus in September of '84, so '85 would be my first season. So I'm going to be back up there, hopefully for the Duke game, just to keep a streak going of consecutive years in the Dome and watching Syracuse. Happy that they've come back in the bubble conversation, and never doubt Coach Boeheim. He always finds a way.
Here's the domino effect. I decide to leave the Olympics, so Mike becomes the host. Mike leaves ESPN, and the terrific Sean McDonough becomes the voice of Monday Night Football. So it only stands to reason that Jim Boeheim and the Cuse will win the national title this year and just close the circle.
And have Mike Hopkins follow Jim Boeheim, a Syracuse alum.
Exactly.
There you go. And I'm going right from this. Going right from this to talk to Coach Hop, actually. Thank you guys so much. And And listen, watching the Bowling for Dollars for Tape, and Mike, watching you on Super Sports growing up, what an honor to talk to you both today. Thank you so much for the time.
Bowling for Dollars, highlight of my career, Nico.
Absolutely, right?
Mrs. Sally Jenkins of Baldwinsville had her fingers crossed that they could get that spare and she could pick up the $25.
Fantastic. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, Nico.